Welcome, Gunrunner.
Hello everyone, Kieran aka the Retrodad here, and I've got my follow-up video for you that I promised you last week when I reviewed the Ultimate 80s collection by Future Publishing and Retro Gamer magazine. And this week, as I said, I've brought you the Ultimate 90s collection review, so you can take a look at this one as well, depending on whether you grew up in the 80s or the 90s. I should also say at this point that I've also now discovered online that there is a 70s version as well, which I didn't know about. And I remember in the last episode, I criticised the fact that the 80s collection didn't have the Atari 2600 in it, but it turns out the 70s collection does have it in. Of course, the 2600 even. The 2600 was released in 1977, so it is technically a 70s machine. Although it really had all its success in the 80s, so I still feel that it would have been a better fit for the 80s collection rather than the 70s collection. But ho hum, there we go. At least it hasn't been ignored completely. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick up the 70s collection because obviously I was 3 when the 70s ended, so I don't really remember very much about it. And outside of the Atari 2600, there's probably not a lot of interest in that decade for me. The 80s is probably my decade, and I suppose going into the 90s as well. But let's have a look at this anyway, so you can all see what you think of it. But again, it's pretty cool. And my wife was quite interested in this one as well as she was in the 80s collection, and I did catch her having a little read of it as well. There wasn't as much content in this one as there was in the 80s one for me, but we'll go through it anyway and take a look. I'm hoping I can get it nicely in the camera for you. I'll try and bend it down a little bit. So there's the index. We've got lots of things: Fresh Prince, X-Files, Teletubbies, Power Rangers, films again, Friends, Polly Pocket. So it starts off with The Simpsons. Obviously iconic. Who doesn't love The Simpsons? Then it's probably not as great as it used to be in the early years, but it's survived a very long time, and that says a lot about it, I think. And that's a great little article on The Simpsons, and they've also gone into the Simpsons games as well, of course, with Simpsons Monopoly and the Simpsons video games, which is good to see. There was actually some pretty good Simpsons video games, especially the arcade game by Konami, and also remember playing quite a bit of Escape from Camp Deadly on my brother's Game Boy. So 90 films that are just fine in the 90s. I'm not going to go through all these, but there's Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is the best film I've ever made. And there's Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. And I had a beer or two with Vinnie Jones right before he went to the premiere of that film. So there we go. Because he used to drink in the same pub as me in Redbourne. So there's films. Shawshank Redemption. I actually went to see that in the cinema the other day. They were doing like a classic film showing at the wonderful restored Odyssey Cinema in St Albans, and that was on. So I went to see it with my wife, and we very much enjoyed it. Jurassic Park, WWE again. Obviously, WWE featured in the last one. It's featured again in this one. Obviously, WWE is still hugely successful to this day, but obviously there was different characters who were popular in the 90s. This goes more into the Attitude Era and Stone Cold and The Rock and stuff like that. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, one of my favourite TV programmes ever. I was absolutely addicted to that back in the day, and I still like watching it if I see it on now. I think it's great. Tamagotchi. My wife was very interested in this. I never had a Tamagotchi. She did, and she told me about how she got so annoyed with it. She smashed it up. Friends. I've always hated Friends. Absolutely loathe the programme. Cannot stand it. Never found it funny then. Don't find it funny now. Yuck. Pass over that. Dream Phone, yeah, girly thing. Furbies, remember them, but never interested. Harry Potter, I've never really been into Harry Potter. I don't mind the films, but Captain Planet, kind of remember that. Atmosphere, I kind of remember playing that once at my friend's house, but I never thought it was that great. Good old Baywatch, which of course was resurrected for a very, very funny movie starring The Rock quite recently. Who didn't watch Baywatch? Not necessarily for the storylines though. Say no more. The golden age of gaming. So this is the sections. We've got the Game Boy, Mega Drive. This won't surprise anyone what you see here at all. The SNES, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, all the really big selling machines really. Nothing else any obscure. There's no Saturn there, there's no Atari Lynx unfortunately. Polly Pocket, Teletubbies, Super Soakers, quite an unusual one to have in there. The iMac, thought it was strange to see that in there. I wasn't quite sure why it was in there, but there we go. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Bop It, which is still pretty popular to this day because my son's got one. The internet, I loved the style of that and seeing the old AOL instant messenger page and stuff like that. Pokemon, I've never liked Pokemon at all, can't stand it. The fashion of the 90s. South Park, loved South Park. I wish that had been a bigger feature because it's a very, very short, brief little thing about South Park, and I think that deserved more space in the magazine personally, because I think it's been very influential on pop culture and stuff as well. The amount of stuff that South Park has got right is quite scary when it's been taking the mick out of stuff and it's turned out right. Especially the whole Donald Trump thing. It still manages to stay on the edge and current and stuff to this day. I think South Park's doing far better than The Simpsons has in that respect. It's managed to evolve and stay current and without getting boring. Super Ted, my brother was mad on Super Ted. X-Files, I loved the X-Files. Brilliant, brilliant program. I was absolutely addicted to it back in the day. Mighty Max, Ren and Stimpy. I never really liked Ren and Stimpy. I remember a lot of people being crazy over them, but nah, not for me. Crocodile Dentist, don't remember that at all, so can't have been that popular. Beavis and Butthead, again, I really liked Beavis and Butthead. But the funny thing was, I didn't like them when I first saw them, but then I really got into them. But I remember watching MTV a lot of the time just to watch Beavis and Butthead, that and MTV Raps, which I loved. Saved by the Bell, lots of memories watching that, and good old Screech. Mini disc. My mum still uses mini discs. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, remember that well. Goosebumps, my son likes that now. Beverly Hills 90210, I never liked it. My sister was mad on it, she loved it, but not for me. It was always more of a girls' program. Sound of the 90s, so Birth of Napster, who remembers that? Blimey. Battle of Britpop, that was I think that was probably the theme of the early 90s, especially with Blair and Oasis and stuff. Quite a bit on that. Girl power versus boy bands, there's Spice Girls and NSYNC and all that tosh. Hip hop, the golden age, good stuff there. Dr. Dre, The Chronic, great album there. 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang Clan, that was an amazing album as well. I loved that. Grunge, which I've never liked ever. Blech. And that's about it really. I think I've probably gone through this a bit quicker than I did with the 80s collection, mainly because I don't suppose there's not quite as much nostalgia in this one for me as there was in the 80s one, and yeah, it's there wasn't as much that I wanted to read, which is obviously complete, as I said, what's by the 70s one, because there's probably nothing in that apart from 2600. But if you grew up in the 90s, there's no doubt tons there that you're going to remember. There's probably going to be lots of nostalgia there for you, as there was for me. There was still, a fair bit in there for me with fresh prints and stuff like that. And it's a well put together bookazine. I should mention that, like the 80s one, it does cost $9.99, so just under a tenner for a huge, massive dollop of 90s nostalgia. And I hope you enjoyed my look at this lovely bookazine, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.